It is week 1 of the college football preview podcast. Week 0 in the books. Now look ahead to week 1. I think we have 85 games on the slate, and we're going to go not over all of them, but we're going to go over the Thursday and Friday games, the notable ones, also some bets for Thursday and Friday as well. My name is John Jansen. Joining me as always is Joe Tansey. Any takeaways real quick from week 0, Joe?
Notre Dame and USC are good.
Yeah, that's about it.
That really is all you need to know about week 0.
Also, UMass has a quarterback. UMass has a quarterback and an offense under Don Brown.
Cool. Let's be honest for a second.
Come on, man. Have some fun.
How many of these teams are we going to care about?
From Thursday and Friday's games? Yeah, it's just going to be USC and Notre Dame.
Right.
I mean, I don't know. Louisiana Tech could be interesting.
Well,
in Conference USA with Hank Bachmeier.
We'll care about
Boise State transfer.
When Conference USA does their midweek thing in October.
Yeah.
Because it's midweek.
I think Hawaii has a quarterback again. We could have a fun Hawaii quarterback. I like the things I saw out of Shager.
Fun fact, Hawaii gets to play 2 games before a lot of teams play 1.
That's amazing.
Yeah, but that's all I got in Hawaii, though. I did not watch that. I did not watch much other than Notre Dame and a little bit of USC. And breaking news, Sam Hartman, Caleb Williams are very good against very average opponents. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I was asked about Heisman with Sam Hartman. By the way, I am a Heisman voter. Just saying. Sam Hartman, though, where did he do anything for you? Are you entering Sam Hartman in any Heisman discussions yet, Joe?
Not that I haven't already. I feel like everything that we talked about Sam Hartman already, it's week 0. They did what they were supposed to do against Navy. When Notre Dame's schedule gets tougher when they play Ohio State, then I'll get a better. I mean, he'll be the better quarterback in that game, at least on paper, compared to McCord. And that's no slight on McCord. It's just, Sam Hartman's been in college.
Oh, yeah, forever. Sam Hartman's going to break some records this year, most likely.
But, so, yeah. I don't know. Nothing. Caleb Williams.
So many times you go up against a 6th-year veteran quarterback in college football. So, yeah.
It's amazing what those things can do. I won my first bet of the season. Didn't win my other 2.
So did I. I took Notre Dame. I took full game. A lot of people took first half, which was a great idea. But I took full game. And I also got that as well.
So, yeah, nothing crazy out of week 0. On to week 1, and get ready. It's a 5-day slate.
Yeah, I guess the only thing I'll say about week 0 is USC's defense is going to be a problem until it's not a problem. And look, I can at least say Xander State's offense has got some interesting things, like Javon Cordero. Kid's good quarterback.
Who has literally been around for 7
forever.
years.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's not like they were facing a bunch of slouches, but that is San Jose State, and they didn't stop them. So, yeah, I think that's really my only takeaway. USC's defense is going to be a problem until we can say it's not a problem. Right. But that's what we do with every year under Lincoln Riley, so essentially nothing's changed. But on to week number 1. So we're only doing the Thursday and Friday games for week number 1 of college football. And the really biggest game of those entire 2 days is going to be St. Francis, Western Michigan. No, I'm just kidding. It's Florida and Utah. Utah bringing back Cam Rising. Utah in a bit of a revenge game. We talked about, and I think I ended up giving Florida a little bit more love than I think most people are. And I think some were caught off guard with the fact that I kind of did like some things Florida does. But this is a tough road game and revenge game for Utah. And Utah's bringing back, obviously, veteran quarterback. I love saying veteran now because these guys have been around for 7 years, which is weird. But Cam Rising's there, and Cam Rising, I mean, that's the big difference for me. And that's the big difference why I take it under 7, at least.
Well, the game to watch is actually Arkansas Pine Bluff against Tulsa.
Come on. Are we just gonna name all the UABs and North Carolina A&T games on the slate before we get to Utah, Florida?
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
Arizona State and Southern Utah, huh?
Which, by the way,
only one of those teams can make a bowl game. None of those teams can.
None of those teams can make a bowl game. Actually, one can make the playoffs.
One can make the playoffs. There you go. That's what I meant.
See, John is still sprucing up on his college football. I am very clearly ahead of him, as you'll see not only with this, but with our Saturday preview as well.
Yeah.
Look, here's where I kind of bake some of these early season games down to is we don't know what these teams are going to look like for the most part. We don't know. There's so many variables.
Yeah, especially when you get into like the Kent States and because it's going to change year to year.
Well, just in general. I mean, look at Florida for example with Graham Mertz at quarterback. Like the transfer portal has drastically changed how we kind of evaluate these teams season by season. There isn't a ton of consistency we can go with. Utah has that. And we also know Utah at home is very good. I know a lot of people have Billy Napier on the hot seat. That's absolutely understandable. I still think Florida can make a bowl game. I think that the bare minimum expectation
that's where I'm at. Yeah,
is bowl game. I know we talked about their win total earlier at 5.5. And the reason I said it is because the SEC East I don't think is very good. Tennessee is going to take a step back. South Carolina, meh. We'll talk about them later. Kentucky, I think Kentucky will be better. But after that, there's Vanderbilt, Mizzou, and I'm missing one team in there. But you have a division that's very easy. And if Florida gets on a roll, they can win a few games. And look, the absolute bare minimum requirement if you're a Florida Gators head football coach is to make a bowl game. And I think they will. But in this game, I don't think they have a shot. I think we've seen in Pac-12
I think they have I hate to say that. I think they will have some sort of a shot and keep it close somewhat. But I think it's just going to be – it's just that Utah can do more than one thing now. You know what I mean? Like Utah used to just be run, play good defense, play physical. Right. And I think Florida can match their physicality, and I think they showed that last year. That's why they beat them. But now you're on the road trying to do that, and they have the better, more experienced quarterback. Florida had the better, more talented quarterback, but now Cam Rising, another year under his belt, I can only expect him to get, even better. So, yeah, it's too much going against Florida here for me.
Right, and I think with Utah within a touchdown at 6.5, I think that's the number we're kind of looking at. If it's Florida, and maybe this is a double digit, or maybe you can find some angle first half or second half if Mertz plays his way into the game. I think there's all sorts of ways you could have played Florida, or at least tried to play Florida, if Florida was not less than a touchdown underdog. I feel like Utah being a 6.5 point home favorite is a slam dunk for me. I think a lot of people are going to be under the same thinking. Well-oiled machine on defense, veteran quarterback, an incredible home field. Maybe one of the most underrated home field advantages in college football.
Could be.
I think that's something that came about when they beat USC last year. But there's I don't think if you were to rank top home environments, Utah ranks top 10. At least if you do like a national poll. But we've seen it firsthand, and I think that's something that's worth paying attention to. So yeah, I think Utah kind of rolls in this game. We'll hype up Florida later.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm at. It's just this isn't the spot to do it. I mean, the one thing I'll be interested in is Graham Mertz and how they kind of use him and how he is in a different offense than the one at Wisconsin. Mm-hmm. Things are going to be spread out. Obviously, it's going to be a lot different from the Wisconsin offense he was in. I don't know if this is a game I want to test that in, though, because Utah's defense is great. They're returning 9 starters. They have one of the best linebacking groups in the nation. They bring in a transfer from Stanford at linebacker as well. Like their defense, including their front seven's good. And so I think Florida can have success against that still, because I think Florida, again, physicality is going to be their calling card. And I think they have 2 really good running backs there, especially with ETN. So I think they'll be able to match that physicality that Kyle Whittingham's teams are kind of known for. But this Utah team just seems to be too talented to that. You got to be able to do more than that. And I'm just not sure Florida can.
Here's what you use week 1 for. And you use week 0 for this as well. If there's a team you're unsure of, like Florida, we assume they're going to lose to Utah, and
right.
I'm
betting it because I'm sure in Utah. That's
right.
where I'm.
But when you look at this slate as a whole, if there's a team like Florida, and I know Ohio State is a completely different example in a completely different spot, but if you're unsure about these teams, take a week to just analyze and see what is going on. And maybe for certain teams, it takes 2 to 3 weeks to figure out what exactly you're getting out of this team this season. But I think with Florida specifically, new quarterback, coach on the hot seat, it's all not going to show against Utah. It'll probably show against weaker opposition, but it won't show against Utah. So I think if you have that, you keep in mind, keep some of the good things in the back of your head, and maybe apply that to more favorable matchups. But I think it's very hard for me to trust anybody to bet Florida in this spot. But it's definitely one of those, if you're not betting the game, if you're not betting Florida or Utah, kind of take in some of the little things that these coaches are doing. And that's what I'll do for a lot of these teams that I don't bet on and I am unsure of. I'm going to end up kind of taking these little tidbits from these games and try to figure out how we can apply them to week 2, week 3, further on before adjustments across the board are made. But yeah, I think that's a way to do it. If you do think Florida, in my opinion, can make a bowl game, but you don't think they can win this game, at least kind of see what good things they can do.
Absolutely. I'm
but
interested
Utah's
in
winning
that.
this game.
Yeah, that's what I'm coming down to, and just taking a look at the offense even further. I mean, they've brought in a bunch of transfers at receiver. The last 3 years, 4 years, they've been over 30 points per game, with last year being their best, 38.6. I don't know if it's going to be that. Obviously, they have to replace Dalton Kincaid, which is going to be kind of tough. But you look at the rest of the wide receiver.
He was hurt. It's not like
he still led their team in receiving, though.
Right,
like he was very good. But the thing is, they're bringing back a couple of other receivers. They're also bringing in guys from the portal too. Guys that I like. I have liked Emory Simmons. I saw him in high school. But the thing is, like, there's still enough talent, even with Kincaid not there, that this Utah team could, I mean, maybe on the outside be even better than they were.
But Utah has done a good job of replacing guys throughout the years. It really is, like, I know we joke about in the NFL, system quarterback, system this, system that, but Utah does have that system in place under Kyle Whittingham. And that's why they've been so successful for such a long time. And yeah, we're talking about USC and Oregon and Washington, but if you don't take Utah seriously in the Pac-12,
oh yeah, have to.
You're not doing
Utah's
your
in that
right.
conversation. Utah's in Oregon, Washington. Obviously USC stands out a little bit more than the rest, but they're there.
What we do with Utah though is we kind of push them to the wayside because they're not flashy. Like
for sure.
USC
but that's what's good about them now is they're not flashy, but Cam Rising can sling it. Like I'm not going to say he's like this amazing, but he's a guy that if they need to pivot into a little bit more, of a passing game, they can do it with Rising. So that's what I like. They have for, even under Tyler Huntley, they weren't as balanced. They were very run heavy with Tyler Huntley at quarterback. I'm forgetting the running back's name. Was it Gaskin? I think no, it wasn't Gaskin. Who was their who was Utah's running back? He was really good then. But it was really a running game. This is different. This is Cam Rising takes them to kind of that next step. So even when a team like Florida can match sort of their physicality in the run game, I trust Rising enough. And also he's athletic too. But I trust Rising enough that he could torch a Florida secondary if he has to. And so that's why I like Utah. They're a balanced team. They have so many ways to attack this Florida defense. And I like them. So we both go in Utah against the spread as well.
Yeah, I would take Utah anywhere up to 10. That's just how much I value a veteran quarterback, home field advantage, better head coach.
Yeah, that's what I'm valuing.
Every box you could check in this matchup that matters to me in a week 1 matchup, Utah checks. And that's really what it comes down to. Yeah, I hope it's a close game because I don't want to see like a slew of blowouts on Thursday night. And this being the de facto
I'll say this, it'll be competitive. We didn't see a lot of competitive games in week 0. This game will be competitive, but it's just, I think you'll see it by the end of it. Utah will be the better team.
Far better.
One I'm not sure of, and it's a brutal Big Ten game to start the season. I don't know. Is it as bad as Nebraska Northwestern? We're getting there. Nebraska, Minnesota in week 1, 8:00 on Fox. How about this to debut? Big Ten.
Gus Jansen, Matt Rule.
Oh, give me all of it. Minnesota did kind of come in with a little bit of turmoil this season. It wasn't like Northwestern type offseason turmoil. Right. But PJ Flack did get a little bit of, this guy does have some issues, all that stuff. Seemed to have gotten over it. I don't know. All I know is this Minnesota team has been trending somewhat down recently, and I think this is the
Cratering
year that
downward,
they.
I think is the right word to use.
What's that?
Cratering downward.
Cratering downward. Yeah. This is gonna be the worst year under PJ Fleck.
Like Minnesota.
This is a bad team.
Let's lump these two Big Ten teams together because I think they carry a bunch of similar
100%.
qualities.
Yep.
Minnesota and Michigan State, because they both peaked a few years ago. Mel Tucker peaked in his first year. Kenneth Walker was lightning in a bottle. It was. They got a program-changing running back. PJ Fleck came in with Minnesota, and let's look at the talent that Minnesota had. Rashad Bateman kind of being the star of that group. Tanner Morgan being there for what feels like 17 years. But now that everything has come back to earth in those two spots, like what about these two teams? And Michigan State plays Friday, so I'm kind of lumping them in here. What about these two teams excites you? Is there really anything? At least last year and in previous years with Minnesota, you'd be like, okay, Mo Ibrahim, one of the best running backs in the country. Michigan State, you could be like, oh, okay, they might be decent. They might pull off an upset. Now we don't know who their starting quarterback is going to be against Central Michigan. So I just, nothing about these two teams excites me. And that leads me to Nebraska in this matchup with Minnesota. Why not Nebraska?
Nebraska fans are saying that. Why not?
I genuinely feel if this game was in Lincoln,
I'd be betting Nebraska.
This spread wouldn't be even close, right?
Yeah.
Like Nebraska might even be favored. It's a 7-point line. Now, look, I'm not saying Nebraska is the best team in.
That's what I'm tackling here. Is the line? The line I think is too high. This is like, and I know college football spreads are going to be higher, especially home roads probably mean a lot more. Right. But still, I think that's way too high. I think it needs to be shorter.
What does Minnesota have to
3.5, 4 would probably be more appropriate. But
what does Minnesota have to play for?
I mean, what does Minnesota have? Defensively, the last 2 years, they've only given up 17 points. 2 years ago, 13.8 points per game last year.
I'm not saying this is going to be an offensive shootout. I think it's going to be
no. It's just
ugly game.
It will be, but Minnesota's defense has been kind of their calling card the last 2 years. While offensively, they were really good 1 year, I think, and that was 2019 when they had Tyler Jansen and Rashad Bateman.
Right.
When they had those two guys, fantastic. They even had a third wide receiver. I'm forgetting his name. Altman Bell, I think his name was. Big wide receiver. Huge, like 6'5", 6'6", and got hurt a lot.
Right.
But they even had him. They have a couple of guys returning back. Their top 2 guys from last year. But that's not Altman Ball. Altman Ball is returning, but he's been again hurt. But it's not Tyler Johnson. It's not Rashad Bateman. It isn't that fantastic wide receiver group. And you have his name better than I do. Ethan Kaliakmanis.
He played a little bit last year, but he
did.
But it didn't impress me whatsoever. Tanner Morgan,
none at all.
Tanner Morgan
he's a below average Big Ten quarterback. Right. Even worse than Tanner Morgan. Like, this is a downgrade, by the way.
If you were to power rank the Big Ten quarterbacks, he would absolutely be in the bottom third. And I might have Jeff Sims from Nebraska above him. I'm not saying, again.
I would. I know that I don't want to take too much away from one season at Georgia Tech or a season but I think he is the better quarterback here.
I'm not going to say
he has more experience. He's played a lot.
Nebraska is an 8-9 win team under Matt Rule in its first year. No, absolutely not. But if I'm looking at the specific matchup against Minnesota, who I really don't have many good things to say about right now. And Nebraska, it's a national TV game, first game under Matt Rule. They're gonna come out hot. Like there's no doubt about that. And I do think if it all comes together perfectly, Nebraska can win this game. So look, I'm taking Nebraska +7. This thing is stared at me.
I hate to follow you on that, but
this thing has stared at me for weeks since I've started kind of perusing these lines for week 1. And I don't know, nothing about Minnesota diving more into them makes me intrigued, fascinated whatsoever.
+215.
Yeah.
I think that and this one's tough for me because again,
I'm taking Nebraska +7. I'm also
Yes.
taking the money line. Like I'm going to do it. Like if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I think Nebraska just has so much more to play for. I
I think
think
they have so much more going for. And the one thing
right.
that's going to be interesting to see is Scott Frost wasn't recruiting poorly in Nebraska.
He was
It's
coaching poorly.
He was coaching poorly. So I mean, look, it's Matt Rule's a completely different style of coach than Scott Frost. So like scheme is changing. I know defensively their scheme is changing too. Everything's going to change. But if the talent is good, I think Matt Rule can at least early on use that talent somewhat. And they have at least a very good running back room, it looks like. They have Grant
Matt Rule
returning.
can
Grant
get
had 915 yards rushing. Like if they can run the ball and they have the running backs to do it, which it looks like they have, Matt Rule can make this work. 100%.
Matt Rule can get the most juice out of the squeeze.
Yeah.
And Scott Frost left about half the juice on the counter and spilled it. That's kind of the
that's my question early on with them. Was it Frost coaching or was it talent? And to me, I land on Frost coaching. The talent's there. Now they have a solid coach. I mean, I'm not all in on Nebraska this year, but at least for this game, I think they're just as talented and they have the better coach.
I really am. I just think there's enough there to convince me. This isn't like Colorado and TCU where like, oh, Colorado's going to come out and under Dion and all that and beat TCU. No, I think it's a different situation because TCU was in the national championship game last year, despite who they lost. But Minnesota, I mean, I feel like Minnesota is just a neutral, and so is Michigan State. When I compare the two teams and their matchups in week one, I don't know if Central Michigan's got a lot going for it either. So, and that kind of brings us to the Friday slate, I guess, unless there's anything that sticks out to you on Thursday.
No, nothing Thursday. I was going to move into the Friday slate. We both like this game. So far, we're kind of following each other here a little bit. I think I will have one other game I'll add. And I think
we might as well get the third follow out of the way right now.
Yeah, it's Miami, Florida, and we're both going Miami. I was going to go Miami full game, but I liked your bet better when I saw it. So
Miami is minus 10.5 first half.
I'm seeing that at plus money on DraftKings right now.
Yeah, it's a plus money, plus 102 on DraftKings. Look, is Miami going to be the best team in the ACC? No. But they still have the superior talent. Tyler Van Dyke comes back. And oh, by the way, Brett Gabbert, who talk about guys who have been in college football for quite literally forever, he has been at Miami, Ohio, poked the bear this week. Like, I just don't get that. In college football, this matters a lot more than the NFL. You're poking the bear. All Mario Cristobal now has to do is continue to play that clip on repeat.
Yep.
And give his guys extra motivation. Look, ACC versus MAC talent, again, there's a big kind of disparity there. And look, I know Miami hasn't had the best of track records in the last few years, but it just feels like if Brett Gabbert just shut up, they did their talking on the field, and Miami, Ohio maybe comes out with a better result, and then they can say we're the real Miami. But I feel like they botched it here. I feel like they gave the Hurricanes just enough motivation to change things.
And I think the Hurricanes are motivated enough after last season.
Right.
Cristobal's going to be out to make a point, improve a point this year. And I think he's going to come out hot.
And then that's kind of how I look at some of these week one games is as teams looking to make a statement, as with, as much of a statement Notre Dame could have made against Navy, they did.
Certainly. And Marcus Freeman had a point to make early.
Right.
Absolutely.
So Mario Cristobal is kind of the Marcus Freeman category, where last year didn't go so well. Need to make a point this year with a national brand. Like Miami is still a national brand. They're still a team. When they lose, it is headline news, especially to the teams they've lost to in the last few seasons. So yeah, I'm taking Miami minus 10.5 first half. I feel like defense is going to be the key thing here for Miami, the Hurricanes. And I feel like maybe we get like a defensive special teams touchdown. If you're in Jersey, probably I would bet that because this is the defense that's probably going to be hungry to get after Gabbert too. I just feel like I'm not a fan of that. I appreciate the I appreciate the attempt of Gabbert to be like, oh, yeah, we're the real Miami, but I wouldn't have done that. You're poking the bear, and for a team that needs probably doesn't need that extra motivation after last year to come out and now get that. Yeah, I think that's the little swift kick in the rear that the Miami Hurricanes needed, if they did, to really come out strong and make this like a 35-10 type game.
Yep.
But I think the first half is where they do a majority of their damage.
Yeah, I think so. I think things are going to come easy for Miami. They're going to run the ball probably very easily. Tyler Van Dyke, I'm thinking he gets going early, probably a few deep passes early. They're talented. They got a good coach. It's time for them to start. Now in year 2 under Cristobal.
This feels like if
that.
you watch the highlights at halftime, it's probably like a 75-yard touchdown pass.
Yep, I'm seeing all of that.
Like a punt block,
punt returns, or a punt block. Yep, something like that. Yeah, we're on the same wavelength on that one.
I know Mario Cristobal is not like a Frank Beamer disciple, but it kind of feels like one of those games where like a defensive
it's going to pour
touchdown,
on.
A big play on offense, and by halftime, this game is over. That's what it feels like to me.
All right, can I give you a crazy bet? And I know I'm going to regret it once I do it.
Oh boy,
I'm gonna regret it once I do it. I think I'm taking Hawaii on the money line against Stanford.
All right, so let me counter your crazy bet with my crazy bet.
Ooh, okay.
I think I'm taking Georgia Tech.
Oh, nice. They're 7.5. That's a crazier one.
So I did this thing. I did a little exercise. A thought exercise, as one would call it, over the last week. I think I did it Sunday night, and I just scrolled through, and ended up with 6 underdogs of plus 200 or higher that I think look intriguing to me. Nebraska was the first one. We already went over that. The second one, and the only other one on Thursday and Friday, was Georgia Tech. Now, this is more of just an instinct thing. It has nothing to do with, and this is why I kind of marked it as, all right, let's see. Let's do a deeper dive into this. I think Louisville maybe not as good as we think they might be in Jeff Brom's first year. Like, I get it. He got his guy, the quarterback Plummer, was at Purdue. He transferred in from Cal, like knows the system. But if you watched Louisville over the last few years, there wasn't much. Like, if Malik Cunningham isn't at Louisville, no one's watching that team.
Oh yeah.
No one is watching Louisville football.
And Malik Cunningham's a quarterback. Put him at quarterback NFL.
Now, the same thing can be said about Georgia Tech. I mean, they've been in the doldrums of the ACC for quite some time. Who knows if Haynes King is going to be the real deal or not, coming over from Texas A&M. But I look at this game, and I think Louisville is a little overblown as a 7.5-point favorite. By the way, this game's in Atlanta. I don't know if that will matter for Georgia Tech. I don't know how much of a buzz Georgia Tech football creates in a state where the 2-time reigning national champion resides. But yeah, I'm more fading Louisville than anything.
Yeah.
And I feel like...
And that's what I'm doing a little bit with mine, too.
I don't think Georgia Tech is going to be a good team this year, but I feel like in this matchup, I think Louisville has to compensate for a lot more than we may think they have to.
Yeah, I think for me, Stanford's going to be a disaster. New coach, not a lot of returning starters. They have 6 total returning starters. Yes, they have been. And it's Vanderbilt, and Vanderbilt's got a bad secondary, and Vanderbilt's going to be not a great college football team, although I do like A.J. Swan and Will Shepard. The connection looked great. But still, I like what Timmy Chang's doing there with Hawaii. It's back to a really good run and shoot. I think Shager's got talent. Man, that guy's got size. That guy's got a good arm. He ended up throwing the ball around pretty good against Vanderbilt, connected on a lot of deep balls. And I think the one thing was wide receiver that was an issue. Were those guys going to be good enough to, foster a good run and shoot offense? And Ashlock, 7 receptions, 127 yards and a touchdown. Steve McBride, 7 receptions, 98 yards, 2 touchdowns. I don't care if Vanderbilt's that bad. Stanford's just as bad defensively. Like, I don't think they're going to be any good. So I think I'm starting to like a little bit of what Timmy Chang's doing. They're at home. This is the first game in Hawaii. Obviously, since the wildfires as well. So I think maybe a little bit of some nice home cooking for them as well, an inspired game. But I just like what Timmy Chang's doing. And I think that offense is going to score enough that Stanford, I don't think is going to put up any points. They're replacing Tanner McKee was the only decent thing they had. And even when they had Tanner McKee, he didn't even do that well in Stanford because they were that bad. It's just, I'm liking and falling in love with an Hawaii team that looks like they are kind of back to solid quarterback, good run and shoot offense. And I think it's going to work against Stanford in Hawaii.
Yeah, I think that's a fair pick. And, take all the analysis out of it. It is an emotional game for them too.
Very.
Like you said, first game since the wildfires hit Maui. That could be an emotionally charged team wanting to have some pride. And as I mentioned, I kind of joked about it being the second game they've played while a lot of people are playing their first. I think that helps them kind of just get into a rhythm faster.
I was thinking that too. Yeah.
And when you have a team like Stanford, who knows what how bad Stanford will be this year, I think that's a big one. So maybe even the Hawaii first half money line. I know it's going to be a little less juicier than the actual money line.
I know what you mean though. Yeah,
but that's something
come out strong.
That has an advantage for them. But yeah, actually, you know what? I'll ride with you. I'll take Hawaii, but I'll take the Hawaii first half.
Nice.
I think that's going to be
I'm going money line. I think I'm going to go money line for them to win the game at home. But yeah, I was impressed. And also Tylan Hines. I got to at least mention Tylan Hines too.
I will. Really how about we do this real quick? Let's do a little thought exercise.
Yes.
With what we just threw out there. So we have Nebraska. We have three dogs that we've talked about for Thursday and Friday. Nebraska is plus 215. Georgia Tech plus 250. Hawaii plus 145. A moneyline parlay at plus 2601.
Oh, is that what you're doing here? Is that what you're doing?
Do we entertain that?
I don't like parlays in general, but I'll tell you what, though. If we want to do it for show purposes, for entertainment purposes, I am down for this, Joe.
Are we barking with the dogs?
I'm down with this. Let's bark with the dogs, baby. Let's do it. Let's do it. I'm down for that. So let's go. Let's do it. What is that number again? What is it at?
It is 2601. So it's bet 5 to win 135 at DraftKings.
No way that hits, but guess what? We're doing it for.
But if it does, we're barking on Saturday morning.
Oh, I'll be barking real loud on Saturday morning. Jeez.
So
all right,
I'll go over real quick. Nebraska. I'll take them plus 7 and plus 215 straight. Utah at minus 6.5. I'm taking the Miami Hurricanes first half minus 10.5. That's a plus 102 line over at DraftKings. I'm taking Georgia Tech plus 7.5. I think I'm gonna, I'm already in on Nebraska money line, so I'm taking Georgia Tech on the money line as well, and I'll take Hawaii in the first half, whatever their line is, because first half plus 130. I'm going to be honest with you. There's probably a 0% chance I'm up by the end of that game.
Hey,
I can probably make it till 12:30. You and I both have a long day on Saturday.
Yes, we do.
So I will take the Hawaii first half money line plus 130. We're barking with the dogs. I think that's like 6 or 7 plays I just put out there. And that's just kind of the appetizer for Saturday. I know we have a completely different style, the two of us, for college football. I kind of go volume, you kind of go quality over quantity, but so you're quality, I'm quantity when it comes to college football.
Yeah, and I'm going with a lot here, I would say. But yeah, I like the Y one. I'm going to follow you with Utah, big on Utah for this week, and also Miami, but I'll stick with the first half one with you as well. I like that number better. I just like them. I think they just come out firing early on. So Miami 10.5 at plus 102 as well. So those are our bets for Thursday and Friday. Stay tuned for our Saturday and weekend bets as we get to the full slate and also the biggest games on the slate as well. So stay tuned for more of that on The Gambler. That is it for the College Football Preview Podcast.